Happy New Year, friend, and welcome back to my Challenge Your Norm podcast. It is a new year, and I, for the last month, have just been overwhelmingly excited to get back to recording these podcast episodes and chatting with you about all these different topics that I've been wanting and eager to speak with you about. And I thought that as the first episode, coming back after a long break, we should talk about different tools, different exercises to set ourselves up for the best possible year in 2024.
Hi, my name is Pernilla, and this is my Challenge Your Norm podcast. I'm absolutely obsessed with anything related to personal development. And well, to grow, we got to challenge our norm. And so on this podcast, we chat about life and how we can challenge our normal way of living it to make it greater than we could have ever imagined. Just one little belief, habit, bold move, and challenge at a time.
I have this year, probably more than ever before, done every single workbook, New Year's resolution, intention setting, challenge, manifestation course that one can do. And I chose 3 that I have previously used that have been incredibly powerful, that this year felt that way as well. And the reason that I took so much time to dig into just completely taking a bird's eye view on what I want this next year to look like, as well as reflecting on what last year looked like and how I want to better my life, my world, myself, in order for me to serve as well as for me to feel at my happiest, best self this year, is because if you have listened to my other episodes or you follow along on my YouTube channel, you know that I went on a 30 YouTube videos, long form YouTube videos in 30 days. And once I started creating these videos, I kind of stopped podcasting and everything else that I had going on in my life during that time, because it just took up so much of my life, because that's big. It's a massive ambition. It's probably the biggest work challenge I had ever put on myself. And it was a massive learning journey, and it was fun. It was hard. And once I completed those 30 videos in 30 days, literally on that same day that I had uploaded the final video, I flew to Denmark. And I just needed a week, is what it felt like at first, to completely just disconnect myself from anything work related, anything social media, or just content creation related, and just be with my family, be present with them. And especially the first week when you're home, if you're someone who lives away from your family, the first week can feel a little bit overwhelming, because you just there's so many things that you have to do and people that you have plans with that you want to see. And so the first week was just kind of a little bit all over the place. The next week, I kind of slowly started to find my peace and calm again and dig into these exercises. I always am doing my morning routine and journaling, but it was especially the second week that I was home that I started to dig into these. So I'm excited to share them with you today. But before I do that, I do want to give a little disclaimer, or maybe it will just help some of you guys out there who've also set a lot of New Year's resolutions, really set some intentions for this new year. Maybe just it's going to be relatable, what I'm about to share, because what I've experienced a lot when setting new goals, new intentions, and doing it on a deep level, because I do this all year round. This is not like a once a year kind of thing that I set intentions and dig into these different tools and practices. But when I really dig deep and I surrender and I, do it hard, we can feel when we do it superficially or when we really feel and connect with it within. When that happens, often the universe is like, okay, this may be too woo-woo for some of you. You can also replace universe with God or energy or whatever you resonate with. But for me, what it feels like is that whenever I've done this in my life, it's like the universe is like, okay, let me just mess up what you got going on right now. And then from that mess up, from all of that discomfort. Unluckiness is what it feels like in the moment. It just feels like my entire January has just been like mess on mess on mess on mess, as in unplanned things just continuously showing up, things going wrong, but it ends good, don't worry. But it just feels like whenever I have set these massive intentions, goals, it's like the universe is like, let me just mess it all up because we need to get you out of your normal structure, your normal routine, the things that are just like kind of stagnant right now, so that we can make space and room and make these other things come to life for you this year. And that is what happened. Just to give you a little context, a little understanding of what's been going on, I don't understand how, but I lost my passport in the airport when I landed in Denmark. Right away called the police and, said that if you find it, then let me know. The police finds it. I'm like, yes, perfect. They're sending it back to me. And I'm going to have this passport before, I have to fly back in many, many days. So I'm like, okay, we're good. Then the passport doesn't arrive and it doesn't arrive and it doesn't arrive. And I'm thinking, oh, it's just because of, Christmas holidays, New Year's, people are taking breaks. And then this massive snowstorm in Denmark happened. So, like, I didn't know if the post would even be delivering at the time. But the day before I fly back to the US, the passport arrives. And I get it from my grandpa because it was sent to his address. And I didn't really look at it until a little bit later. And I look at it, and the police had put 2 holes in it, which apparently is a law. It's a rule that when a passport is stolen, lost, you're not supposed to be able to use it again because, people can use it for people who found it could have used it for other things. So they completely like eliminate this passport. The crazy thing is that I've been on the phone with the police 3 times because of me saying that I do have this flight that I need to get back to the US. So I just want to make sure that it's going to arrive in time. None of the 3 people that I spoke with once, and my mom was literally listening to every single one of these phone calls because I had to use her Danish phone to call the Danish police. And every single person that I spoke with during this said, oh, don't worry, it's on the way. It'll probably arrive in time. None of them told me that they put holes in the passport so that I couldn't use it. So that's kind of random. Like, what are the odds that none of them just think to mention that to me when I'm literally asking if it will arrive because I have this flight to catch? Well, whatever. I receive it on that day, see that there's holes. Someone tells me that there's a possibility that I can get a new express passport, and I do my absolute best to do that. I go to one office that does that kind of passport express process. I walk there because there's a snowstorm in Denmark. None of the buses are driving. None of my mom's car is a Tesla, and like her wheels like literally would not move in the snow. I think Denmark wasn't prepared for this like snowstorm. I walk to this first passport office. They say, okay, well, we can't do the express. You have to walk into this other passport office in the city, which that would take me an hour and 15 minutes to walk to, and they were closing in like 2 hours or something. So I rush my way into this other passport office. I really think, okay, I can get this express passport and then get my new flight. Turns out, long story short, I was not able to get the express passport, but I ordered a new one. I stayed in Denmark for another 10 days and finally got a new passport. Had plans to do a ton of things that didn't work out while I was in Denmark, and all these things that I planned in the US didn't work out that I wanted to do. Whatever, I made the best out of it in Denmark. I enjoyed my time there. I'm the kind of person that regardless of what happens, I'm actually kind of messy with certain things, like losing your passport. Who the frick loses your passport? I lost my passport, and things like that happen to me in my life because I can be messy. But whenever something does happen that I messed up, like, I'm so positive. I'm like, okay, there's a reason for this. I believe that there is a reason for this. And turns out there was, which I'll get to that. I get my new passport. I then realize that the name on my flight ticket is spelled wrong. Long story short, we figure it out. I make my way back to the US. Right as I land, this thing happens that because it's something personal that is in relation to people close to me, something happens that I cannot share in details, but it happens literally right when I land. That completely blows up a very good situation. That happens. I land the next morning, finally being back in the United States, being so thrilled and excited. I wake up with what either could be food poisoning or just like a massive flu or COVID. At least like I get completely sick, wiped out. I sleep for like the next 22 hours. The next day I'm still ill. Next day I feel a little bit better, but still ill. I end up getting into some really challenging conversations with my boyfriend, which again, something that feels in the moment like, oh, this is like, why is this happening? This feels not good. Doesn't feel right. But through this challenging conversation, through all these things that did not go according to plan, I now am just starting to see how every single obstacle that happened to me throughout January was there to lead me towards this bigger vision that I have created for my life. To give the example of the challenge, hard conversation with my boyfriend, that has, for one, made me come to an awareness about myself that I never have been willing to admit to myself. And the fact that I, through these challenging conversations, had this realization about myself, I know that, well, first of all, through having this awareness with myself, the fact that I was not just willing to be finally honest with myself about it, but also honest with him about it, made me, you know, when you're just like the most rawest, vulnerable version of yourself with someone else, how much that connects you with someone else when you dare show what you experience as the ugliest side of yourself. Others may not see it that way, but for me, you know, something that is so deep ingrained to my core that I wasn't even willing to be aware with myself of, when you then get so raw and open and naked in your vulnerability with someone else, the connection that you build through having that challenge does connect you on a just on a next level, right? And the same happened within him and his awareness about himself. And so just to give that example of how this challenge that we had to deal with, how that connected us closer, I also believe that all these other little challenges, it was nothing serious, like nobody got sick and got hurt, but it was just like all these little challenges in January where I didn't understand in the moment why they would happen. Every single one of them, I'm now understanding how they are leading me towards this life that I deep down want, because throughout me being stopped from going back to my busyness in America, staying in Denmark, being stuck there, let's just call it there and that, even though I enjoyed my time there, being stuck there, it made me reflect even deeper on what I want and how I'm going to get there. And again, coming back to the US, being sick, my body being so like just lazy, sluggish that I couldn't even go work out. I say couldn't, like obviously you can't get work out when you're sick, but it forced me to stop. And that stop made me have realizations, reflections on how I'm going to not keep doing the same thing that I did last year, because that'll give me the same results, right? How I'm going to need to make changes to my life for me to actually create this vision that I deep down want. And I could not have had those realizations, or at least I don't believe that they would have come to me as clearly if I had just continued going about my busyness, or not had that challenging conversation, or not had, you know, all these little things happen, if I hadn't had these other things happen. And the funny thing about all of this is that my word for 2024 was joy. And I'm like, I was feeling that in the beginning, but then everything started to happen. And because my word was joy, I was able to choose to find joy in every single moment. Even when I was sick, I was like able to find gratitude and joy in that because I chose to. And when I lost my passport and found out I couldn't fly back and stuff, like I really, That's something I value about myself. I'm able to, regardless of how much I just want to be like, this sucks, I'm very good at snapping myself out of it and stepping back into wanting to live in joy. And I'm saying this because maybe some of you set some goals and you're like, what in the world is going on? I had all these plans. This was going to happen in 2024, and I'm only seeing myself go backwards. This is just a little reminder, or maybe you've never heard of it before or experienced it before, that for us to like get to that next level that we deep down want for life, sometimes things have to get rustled around a little bit. They have to be shaken. And that shaking of our lives that feels terrible in the moment is what's going to set us up for the next chapter, for that next level version of life that we want to experience. And also, as a little disclaimer, that if you do these 3 exercises in maybe your next 3 morning routines, that you maybe can expect to experience a little bit of what may feel like a challenge in them before the actual miracles come into fruition from doing these exercises. Okay, let's move into the 3 little exercises that I would love for you to enjoy as much as I do when I do them in my morning journaling. And I know that I am a little bit late to the game because I was supposed to have come out with this episode like January 1st, it should be or end of December. But I am the kind of person that sets goals, that sets intentions, that wants to better my life all year round. So regardless when you're listening to this, you can use it. But also, I heard that the 19th of January is the day that most people quit on their New Year's resolutions. So maybe you did set some New Year's resolutions, and maybe you're now just starting to feel that little bit of not feeling motivated. And these exercises will snap you back into that motivation, because it'll really help you connect with the why, like why it's so important that you stick to it, because you deserve to feel so much happiness this year. So even though I'm late, maybe it's a good thing, I wrote some notes in my journal so that I can remember all of these exercises. And the first one is simple yet powerful. Write down in your journal, or just think to yourself if you're driving or walking, where do I want to be 1 year from today? Who do I want to be 1 year from today? Like, really do not put any limits to yourself. In your dream scenario, where are you 1 year from today? And the reason that I think this is very important to be clear on is because when we know where we want to go, we can choose every single day to have the beliefs of the person that we want to become, to walk the footsteps of where it is that we want to go. And I'm sure you, like me, have experienced time and time again the magic of when you have a vision, somehow it just ended up happening. I know you have many things in your life today that once was a dream. You dreamt it, and then one way or another, it just came into life. I think having a plan as to how to get there is important, but the most important thing is to know where we're headed, because sometimes things just kind of solve themselves. Of course, we have to do our best to take aligned action. And of course, we have to maybe research or create a plan that can help us get there. But even if you're not willing to do any of that, as long as you have a vision of where it is that you want to be 1 year from today, the chances of you getting there are, what do they say? I think it's like a big, I forget the percentage of how big of a chance it is that you, is it like a, it's like, I think it's like almost 50% higher of a chance that you're actually going to get there. But not only that, because if you want to go further with this, you can ask yourself, what are the feelings that you will be experiencing when you are there in a year from today? What are the feelings? Are you going to feel safe, happy, financially free, joyful, creative? Whatever it is, write down the emotions that this new life you're going to be living in a year is going to make you feel. Because we as humans, what we deep down want is not necessarily to hit a certain goal or get somewhere. It's We want to feel a certain way. We are interested in how, in what these external or, internal things are going to make us feel. And so when we are aware of the feelings that this specific thing where we want to go in a year from today is going to make us feel, then we can choose daily to practice feeling those in the now. And the beautiful thing about that is that when we feel it in the now, as in the good emotions, we are so much more likely to also attract more good into our life and most likely attract this vision that we have for our future into our life. But second thing, if you want to go a little deeper further with this first simple exercise, is that once we have that end goal in mind as to where it is that we want to be 1 year from today, we can kind of work our way backwards. Make a list of, oh, what are the step by step things that I need to do or can do or that could move the needle a little bit for me to actually get there? What would the plan be? And that's not to say that we have to completely follow that plan, because that plan can change 1,000 times from as we go from A to B. But it can help us build a little bit of momentum. It can help us do some research or, create that first video or build that website. It can kind of give us some momentum. And as we know, once we get the ball rolling, everything else gets easier. And also, I've mentioned this before, but I really feel that whenever my step by step plan is unknown or I haven't put it down on paper, it just feels more overwhelming. It feels less possible. That's when you have a step by step process, then one step at a time doesn't seem so overwhelming. It's the whole picture that does. So if you do make a little bit of a January could look like this, in February I have to have this done, in March this has to be done, then it's like, oh, if I only have to focus on this in January, then it's actually, it's not too bad. I could do this. So that's at least been something that's been helpful for me, and hopefully it can be for you as well. The second exercise that I'm very excited about is also one that I've done many years prior, but this year I did it in a different way and it felt really freaking powerful. So I'm going to share it with you. I forget if it's called the Wheel of Life, but we're going to split our life into 9 different areas. And if you have a journal near you, then what I would recommend is that you draw a massive circle. And in that circle, first you split it into 3. If you think about a wheel, you split it up into 3, and then each of these 3 more triangles, so that you end up with 9 triangles in total. And then you write the 9 areas of life, which I've chosen to call body, mind, soul, love, family, friends, growth, money, and you can write that on the outside of the circle. And then within every single one of these triangles, you rate from a scale from 0 to 10. Right now, in your life, how would you rate every single one of these areas of your life? And to clarify, when I say body, I mean physical health, physical well-being. Mind is your mental happiness, clarity, maybe even joy. Soul, I would also call spiritual, because it's your connection to your higher self, your intuition, but also God or spirits, angels, whatever you believe in. Love is your romantic life. Family says itself. Friends, also pretty clear, obvious. Growth, for me, it's like, how much do I feel like I'm putting into my self-development and learning different skills that I want to learn that could be useful for everything that I'm working towards right now. Maybe for you, it's money. How's your financial life going right now? And mission, you can also call work, job. For me, mission is how well I'm doing with my mission here on earth. And that, for me, is combined with my job. But you do whatever resonates with you. But inside of the circle, you rate from 0 to 10 how well these different areas of your life is going right now in this moment. And I think it's important to be honest with ourselves, because we can want to lie, but nobody's going to see this. So we might as well be honest with ourselves, because the more honest we can be with ourselves, the more progress we can make, the more we can really look into the realness of real of what we need in our life to actually feel happier, healthier, better every single day. Because only when we can see what maybe needs to change or what needs work can we actually make that difference, right? And when I do this exercise, I like to write the numbers if they're close to zero, closer to the middle. And if they're closer to 10, closer to the higher end, because then I can kind of get an idea of how far out or how far in I am within these different areas of my life. And once you've done this, for each of these areas below, lower down on your page, you write why that is. Why is it currently going well, or why is it currently not going so well? Just to find that clarity within yourself. And the funny thing is that we often know these things, but just putting them on paper, it just, for me at least, gives me such a sense of better understanding, clarity. Because the next part of this exercise is once you've written down why it's currently like this, you then below on your page or the next page write down if every single one of these areas of your life were 10, what would have to happen? So if you currently are a 5 on your money area of your life, then write down what would it actually look like if you were a 10, or if you right now are a 7 on your physical, or if you've rated yourself a 7 on the body area, then what would it take for you to actually get to a 10? And doing that can also really lead us to some crazy revolutionary realizations. At least it has for me many times. And I think just the awareness of it, the consciousness of it, can have us just subconsciously make us make these changes, because oftentimes it doesn't actually require that much. It's the little things, it's the little habits, right? That make those drastic long-term changes. However, the last and final part of this exercise is once you have your list of your current rating system and why it is that each of these areas of your life are maybe perfect or maybe needs a lot of work, and you also have written down what every single one of these areas would look like if they were a 10 out of 10, you can then choose 3 areas that you want to focus on this year. 3 areas that you really want to do your absolute best to get as close to that 10 as possible. And the reason I think it's important to do 3 is because as a human, we can only focus on so much. If we focus on everything at once, we can only make a very tiny little bit progress in every single area. But if we focus on a few things and make drastic changes there, we can actually not perfect, because we can never perfect anything. At least I have never been able to, but I've been able to progress in those areas that I'm really, really focused on. And 3 is actually even a lot. You may want to maybe choose 3, but then have one main one, because if you want to increase your physical health and you've never worked out and you've never eaten healthy, that is a lot to take on. So be real with yourself and see what are we going to start with these first 3 months of the year, for example, or what are the 3 areas that I actually am able to do one new habit within each area for the entirety of this year. And now the third and final exercise is one that I've also mentioned before, but I and it's connected to, I mean, both exercise number 1 and number 2, but I just think it just feels so good. And I've done it so many times, and my day has ended up looking the way that I once dreamt of. But it is basically describing in your journal what your entire day looks like from when you wake up in the morning till you go to bed, in the most specific details as possible, as in where are you? What do you smell? What do you see? What are you experiencing and feeling? Like really connect with every little task that you're doing throughout the day and who you are, and everything from how you stand to how you speak and the impact you bring onto other people or in the work that you do. Just get as specific as possible. It not only just makes you feel so good, but again, going back to what I spoke about when we talked about that first question, there is just something about writing down your goal and it's somehow ending up happening. It's really wild. So highly, highly recommend that you do that. And then going back to me sharing my word of the year is joy this year and what my word of the year was last year. But you know what I think? I think we're going to make a little podcast episode by itself on this choosing of a word, because I only realized as I was reflecting on this last year that my word of the year, of what my words of the year was last year, and how that actually completely played a massive role throughout the entirety of last year. So we'll get back to that, because we're gonna have some deep talks this year on this podcast episode, and I'm just extremely excited and grateful that you're here. Thank you so much. I have big hopes for this podcast this year, not in necessarily that I needed to grow or evolve like crazy, as in the viewership, but I just feel like I have so much on my heart that I want to talk with you about, because it's exciting to me and it's exciting that I get to share it with you. So thank you for listening. And I also just want to mention that I have put together my workout program. I know it's January, so a lot of people are trying to get in shape this year. My workout program, my favorite workout program, I've made some tweaks to, as well as I now, together with the nutritional guide, where I share with you how you can literally calculate your macros and completely for the rest of your life understand what you need to eat for you to literally see the exact results that you want when it comes to your physical goals. I've now attached 6 recipe books with 300 recipes onto that. So it's like a bundle with all these, also my 60-day journaling challenges on there as well. So if anyone's interested, I just thought I'd mention that, because I know a lot of people in January are like, okay, I'm about to go get in shape. And if you've, been trying different things and you're wanting to try something new, I hope you want to check it out. I'll put it in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you try these exercises and that they are going to be useful for you. I'm grateful for you. And as always, remember that in order for you to grow, you have to challenge your norm.